Hello everyone. Welcome to Dr. Mysterious. I am beyond excited to kick off this journey with you. In the annals of crime history, some cases stand out not just for the heinous acts committed, but for the supernatural elements that surround them. Today, we unravel a tale where the lines between good and evil blur, and the ominous phrase, "the devil made me do it," takes on a whole new meaning. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, so you never miss out on our in-depth explorations of the most mysterious and intriguing cases. Now, let's journey into the heart of darkness with the OSSETT exorcism murder. And these are the main characters of this case. Now let's start our journey.
It was a Sunday morning like any other in OSSETT, West Yorkshire on the 6th of October, 1974. People from the quiet, family-friendly neighborhood of Havercroft were making their way to church and only a handful of shops were open. It was unusual for police to receive a call of public disturbance on a sunny morning, and they assumed the man causing people to call in was perhaps a student from the nearby Leeds University, coming down from an acid trip perhaps. When they arrived at the scene, they saw 31-year-old Michael Taylor slumped on a sidewalk outside a pub. He was naked, except for socks on his feet, and was curled up in the fetal position, covered in blood. It looked like he was drunk, but on closer inspection it was clear that the man was seriously disturbed. When the ambulance took him away, he kept screaming about the devil, shouting, "It is the blood of Satan. It is the blood of Satan. It is the blood of Satan." But this was not true. The blood on his hands came from his beloved wife and their family dog. Michael was known in his community as a mild-mannered and God-fearing person. What went so horribly wrong, that he killed his wife on this Sunday morning? The early 1970s were years of political uncertainty. The Cold War was raging on and people in England were nervously aware of the troubles in neighboring Ireland. Unemployment was on the rise, and so was inflation. There was a general sense of hopelessness. It has been said that this was a time of extremes in England. People clung to ideas and beliefs to foster a sense of hope. After a decade of counterculture, baby boomers were more open-minded and had the need for less traditional religious practice. Where some explored New Age spiritualism or even the occult, others preferred charismatic Christianity. To contextualize, the release of cult classic Wicker Man, with strong suggestions of paganism, was released in 1973. And, being a time of extremes, for every group, idea or practice, there was the polar opposite. There was also a rise of satanic panic of the time, after the 1972 release of American evangelist Mark Warnke's book The Satan Seller, made waves in the Christian community. In 1974, OSSETT, West Yorkshire was home to 17,000 residents. It was a quiet place with many traditional churches. But like many small towns in England in the early 70s, charismatic worship was rapidly gaining popularity. 31-year-old Michael Taylor and his 29-year-old wife Christine was perhaps a typical couple of the time. They had 5 sons between the ages of 6 and 12. They had a loving home, and Michael called Christine his darling wife. Everyone who knew them envied their happy marriage. They lived in the same neighborhood as Michael's parents, and as Michael's father later said about his son and daughter-in-law, they were still courting throughout their marriage. The Taylor home was busy and loud with lots of laughter and happiness. Christine doted on her dog, a poodle, and Michael always joked that she loved the dog more than she loved him. Michael was mild-mannered and Christine was sweet. Michael was a manual laborer. Some sources say he was a butcher, others that he had worked as an agricultural machine operator. Either way, a back injury at the beginning of 1974 prevented him from working long, physical hours. He struggled to find another job, and the Taylors, who had been living comfortably up till that point in time, began to struggle financially. Because of this, he fell into a depression. They had not been very religious before. Most of OSSETT was traditionally religious and people attended church often. But with the increase in charismatic worship, they were one of many young couples who realigned their beliefs and decided to join the Gobber Christian Fellowship Group. It was Barbara Wardman, a friend and neighbor of Michael and Christine's, who took it upon herself to introduce them to the progressive religious group. Barbara told her friends that this church, which was a part of St. Thomas Church in Gobber, was anything but a stuck-up or traditional place of worship. It was a group of like-minded Christians, and as a group it offered friendship and support. Nothing seemed untoward, and the Taylors agreed to attend a Bible study group with Barbara, to check it out. And that is all it took. The Taylors only needed one visit to be convinced that this was where they wanted to be. The group had a down-to-earth approach which gave them a sense of belonging. The Christian Fellowship Group was a charismatic church, who steered away from traditional English church philosophy. They believed in faith healing and spirituality. Modern music was used in worship and sermons were very emotional. At a time when the world seemed to be in a tug-of-war between capitalism and communism, everyday people just wanted to get on with it. Churches like the Christian Fellowship offered them a place to be heard, to feel valued and to hope for a brighter future, together. To join the church in question, one would have to be born-again Christian. The Taylors agreed that this was necessary, so they converted and from the get-go, became active members of the congregation. It was at church where the Taylors met a lay preacher by the name of Marie Robinson. Michael, in particular, grew very close to Marie, quite quickly. She encouraged him to become involved in the church, and before long, Michael volunteered at group meetings, enthusiastically engaging in all activities. He also spoke in tongues and hosted many meetings and Bible study groups at his home. Christine grew concerned about Michael and Marie's close relationship and expressed it to a Bible study group at their home, saying that she believed their relationship had turned carnal in nature. She confronted her husband and the preacher in front of everybody and demanded to know if they were having an affair. They denied it, and the group suggested Michael and Marie talk things out in private. Strange, perhaps, that they didn't suggest Michael and his wife talk things over, but rather him and the woman he was suspected of having an affair with. Maybe everyone could sense the tension between the two and wanted to give them a moment to end things. Reportedly, Michael took Marie upstairs and instead of setting things straight, he opened up about his feelings for her and tried to kiss her. She was not interested and rejected his advances. Embarrassed, but quickly bouncing back, Michael declared the situation as a victory for the Lord. He ran downstairs and told the group that, thanks to the Lord, their lingering feelings for each other had evaporated, it was all over. He said, "A miracle has happened. We have both overcome our passions." Marie was relieved that he took it so well, but on the turn of a dime, Michael's attitude changed. She would recall it to have been a sinister transformation, like something had entered his body before he then proceeded hitting her, screaming hysterically. This is Marie's account of the incident. "I suddenly glanced at Mike and his whole features changed. He looked almost bestial. He kept looking at me and there was a really wild look in his eyes. I started screaming at him out of fear. I started speaking in tongues. Mike also screamed at me in tongues." Michael later claimed that he could not remember anything regarding the attack. He only said he felt an evil force taking over, and he recalled, "She stabbed me with her eyes. I can still see those eyes. I saw her standing naked before me, and I was naked." And then Marie's account explained what happened next. She said he attacked her, screaming at her in tongues. "Christine tried to pull him off me. Somehow, we were at the other side of the room, away from her, with him crouching over me, ready to kill. It was like pictures of lions ready to kill their prey. I really tasted fear in my mouth. I thought this was it. I was on the verge of death and I seemed to come to my senses. I knew that Jesus would save me and I started saying his name over and over. When Christine heard me calling on the name of Jesus, she started saying it too, and I believe firmly that it was only by calling on his name that I was not killed." The next day, Marie visited the Taylors at home, but Christine did not want to let her inside. She felt it would be better to keep Michael and the preacher apart. However, Marie insisted, and said that she had come to tell Michael all was forgiven. Christine relented and they had a short visit, during which Marie cleared the air between her and Michael and also brought news that the church would not hold the event against him. All was forgiven and they could go on as per usual. But Christine had her doubts about it all. If only she listened to her instincts at this point. But then again, there was no way of knowing that 2 weeks later, she would be dead. After the violent incident with Marie, Michael's behavior became increasingly erratic. He had turned his anger toward all things religious and destroyed all Bibles and religious books in his house. The once kind and gentle man had become easily annoyed, especially by his wife and children. He knelt in the street outside of his house, shouting. He told neighbors he had seen the devil. His mental health deteriorated and he developed a paralyzing fear of the moon, something Marie tried to help him with, but failed. The church leaders saw Michael's behavior as a red flag. They believed that he had become possessed by the devil. The only way forward was to perform an exorcism. A meeting was arranged with a local Anglican priest in charge, 52-year-old Father Peter Vincent from St. Thomas, Gobber, the same church that hosted the Christian Fellowship group. Father Vincent had experience in exorcism and agreed to meet with Michael. When he asked Michael why he had attacked Marie Robinson, a bruised and embarrassed Michael claimed that she had tried to seduce him in front of his wife. He also believed that she had bewitched him somehow, caused him to become possessed. Both Peter and his wife, Sally, sympathized with Michael. In fact, Sally especially agreed that Marie was most likely the cause of the possession. She had become suspicious of the beautiful young blonde preacher and was concerned about her effect on the men in the congregation. Father Vincent agreed with concerned group leaders that Michael was indeed the victim of demonic possession. And his was a very serious case. It is believed that the clergyman's wife Sally was obsessed with demonic possession, and it was her who pushed for an exorcism. She stoked the fires regarding Marie Robinson and felt that she was connected with a satanic cult and had come to their congregation as a wolf in sheep's clothing. However, Christine Taylor was not so sure about the exorcism. She felt that all that Michael needed was a break from the church and religion. She was confident that by spending time with her and their children, he would calm down again. She visited her neighbor Barbara, the one who had introduced them to the fellowship, on the 4th of October. Barbara claimed that Christine looked drained. The situation had taken its toll on her. She told Barbara that they no longer wished to be a part of the fellowship and gave her a heads up that they wouldn't be attending meetings any longer. Barbara recalled Christine's answer when she asked if she was okay. Chrissy told me they had been up all night. As soon as it began to get dark and the moon was up, Michael started to go on about the moon. They sat downstairs in the sitting room all night making the sign of the cross over each other to keep each other safe. Let's consider the effect of the full moon on people for a minute. Now, many call this speculation, or mumbo-jumbo. But studies have been conducted, showing an increase in crime rates on full moon nights. Although it's not quite clear why, it is so common that some police stations and hospitals schedule extra officers for full moon nights. Even William Shakespeare mentioned the effect of the moon in Othello. It is the very error of the moon. She comes more near the earth than she was wont, and makes men mad. The very word lunacy is derived from the Latin word for moon. So, is it possible that there is something to it? Could the full moon drive one to insanity? Many people believe it is all a myth and that bizarre episodes occur only because people expect things to go awry when the moon is full. Despite what one believes, the fact remains that Michael Taylor was heavily affected by the moon, whether by his own perception or otherwise. In astrology, the month of October is known for its harvest moon, or hunter's moon. In 1974, October kicked off with a full moon, and if Michael Taylor was as sensitive to the moon as testimonies say, it would have been a rough week with little sleep. A study conducted in 2014 at the University of Bonn, Germany, observed the effects of sleep deprivation in healthy patients between the ages of 18 and 40. After only 24 hours of no sleep, the subjects displayed concerning signs. The conclusion of the study, as stated on ScienceDaily.com, is 24 hours of sleep deprivation can lead to conditions in healthy persons similar to the symptoms of schizophrenia. A neighbor reported that Michael Taylor was out in the street again. This time he was shouting at her to drink the milk of human kindness. Then he spat on her and told her it was milk. Taken aback at his behavior, the woman was keen to get away and he shouted after her, pointing with his finger, "The wrath of God is upon you." He was clearly already unhinged on that day, which was Thursday the 3rd of October. Michael did not sleep that night, as Christine told her neighbor Barbara the next day. We are not sure if he caught any shut-eye on the Friday night, but he certainly did not sleep at all the night that followed. Michael and Christine were summoned to the vicarage at St. Thomas Church on Saturday night, October 5th. They were reluctant at first, but after many sleepless nights, their defenses were low and they agreed. They left their children with Michael's parents and a friend drove them to the vicarage. Once they arrived, they were introduced to a team of religious leaders that had come to assist in the exorcism. Father Peter Vincent explained that he would take the lead, and would be supported by his wife Sally, as well as Methodist minister, Reverend Raymond Smith, and his wife Peggy. A lay preacher, Donald James, was also present. During the pre-exorcism meeting, Michael became agitated, throwing his tea in Father Vincent's face, and even kicking the clergyman's cat. St. Thomas was built in 1848, in the Gothic revivalist style of the time. The stone building has stained glass windows with pointed arches. On a chilly autumn night, it must have been an eerie, scary place to visit. Christine was kept under guard in the vicarage, where some church members remained with her, praying and laying hands on her, a sort of exorcism by proxy if you will. Father Vincent and the deliverance squad moved Michael to the vestry just before midnight, waiting for the witching hour to commence the exorcism.